Hello everybody, this is Colton with POSGuys.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Datalogic PM9600 industrial barcode scanner. This is a replacement to their 9501 series of scanners, and it's unique in a couple different ways here. So I'll go over what makes this scanner a little bit more unique from some of their other models. Some are pretty clear, the inclusion of a screen being one of them. And then we'll run through, do a couple durability tests on this. Do some scanning, of course, and then look at some of the special programmable features that you can have access to when you have the screen here. Now, they make two different models of this. There's a 4-key and a 16-key model. We'll be taking a look at the 4-key version today, but I'll also highlight some of the extra features that you'll be able to do with the 16-key configuration as well. So with that stated, I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in and start the review. All right, so we're zoomed in here now, so we can go ahead and take a closer look at this unit. Before I go and start breaking down the appearance, I wanted to talk a little bit about the communication and connections options that this scanner has. Of course, communicating with the cradle, you can go either USB, which you can see the cable running here. That's what's plugged into the computer. But you could also do serial on that as well, and an Ethernet interface connection if you have an industrial Ethernet setup going. From the cradle to the scanner itself, it does something a little bit different. It actually uses radio as opposed to Bluetooth. Radio used to be really popular back in the days before Bluetooth took it over. But with the Bluetooth shortages that we've been seeing, we have seen some reemergence of radio kind of pop on. And Datalogic's kind of been behind that from the front or from the start. So I'm not surprised that they have continued that by making this model a radio-equipped unit. Giving you an idea of radio, one of the big advantages of that is that you do get a little bit of a longer range. So the spec sheet for the scanner noted that the range for this is just below 500 feet with a direct line of sight. Comparing that to its closest Bluetooth competitor, which clocks in at about 300 feet, you're definitely getting a little bit more range there. I'm not one, of course, to believe in spec sheets without a test. So in a little bit here, I'm going to go jump outside and put that to the test. Pending those results, if you, for some reason, 500 feet wasn't enough, if you had to go even further, you can put the scanner into a batch mode so that you could scan barcodes and whatnot when it's not near the cradle. And then when it gets back into range of the cradle, it'll be able to import those all out. Pretty standard feature. Just thought I'd note it, just so you know. But with that stated, I'm going to go ahead, jump outside right now, and put the the communication range rather, to the test. We'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, I grabbed you and picked you up here. We're going to go ahead, got the barcode scanner here, and we are going to take a walk outside. Here, follow me, and we're going to just continue to scan this thing and see how far we can get out here. So, here we are at the front door. Perfect. And we're just going to take a little bit of a walk. It's a beautiful sunny day here. Keep scanning. Alrighty, we are walking outside, across the parking lot. Still seems to be going good. We're just gonna walk through a flower bed here, hop around, watch out for cars, go under an underpass. It's probably a little bit loud. That's all right. We are pretty far away. The building is back there and we are still going strong. Look at that. Still good. Still going. And all right, we got way over here. So, I mean, it's probably hard to hear me right now, but this is pretty good range. We got across the parking lot, down the road a little bit, under an underpass, across the building. I'd say it's probably about 300 feet plus some walls. So I'd say in that regard, it's doing a lot better than most. All right, we are back now. So the next thing that I wanted to go over on this particular unit is the battery capacity on this particular device. With the one cool thing that this scanner has that's kind of unique to Datalogic is they built in wireless wireless charging rather on their industrial devices. So you won't see any connector prong on there or on the cradle itself. And that's really handy too, because those pinouts that transmit the power can eventually start to wear down. So that kind of avoids that point of failure on there. And with wireless technology, some people do have concerns about charging times and whatnot. This particular unit is equipped with a 3,350 milliamp battery, and you can charge from about 0 to 100% in about 2.5 to 3 hours if you're using a power supply to connect this to the cradle, or about 5 hours if you're using a USB-C connection to communicate with the cradle. Effectively, that's going to give you about 80,000 scans per charge, which is about 20,000 more than its closest competition, and a whopping 50,000 more reads than its predecessor, the PM9500. So it's definitely top of the class when it comes to battery capacity, and it's a huge jump from its from its younger brother, or older brother, I guess. So with the wireless charging out of the way and kind of talking about that, let's take a second to look at the actual unit itself and check appearance-wise. It's a pretty solid scanner, or pretty standard as well. Little red-black color scheme that Datalogic is known for. Trigger, of course, right here. The usual battery can be popped in and out. Just a little button here, pops out. Battery pops out right there. Getting it back in there. Oh, there we go. But the big thing that differentiates this unit from a lot of the other scanners in Datalogic's portfolio is, of course, the screen and buttons on there, which are going to give you a lot of extra functionality. Now, as I noted before in the beginning of the video, this is a 4-button configuration model here. So you have the function keys and then the 2 buttons up and down, but they do also make a 16-key version. I'll pop a photo right here on the screen now so that you can take a look at what that looks like. It's going to give you access to a couple more features and just makes entering in information a little bit easier. So I'll kind of go over some of those extra features later on in the video. Just know that it's an option for you. So jumping into the next part that I wanted to cover, this is going to be durability on this, because that's always, of course, super important for these industrial scanners. Datalogic notes that this particular scanner can survive 8-foot drops to concrete. That's a little bit less than its competition, its direct competitor here, which could do about 10-foot drops. But it's still pretty close. On top of that, this scanner does rate with an IP65 rating, so it can withstand jets of water being shot at it from the sides. Of course, this is my favorite part of the video here, where I put that to the test. I love beating up these industrial scanners, so I threw some footage on the screen now where you can see me, dropping it and throwing some water on it. And it seems to have held up pretty well, even despite the fact that I dropped it a couple times onto some concrete and gave it a little extra abuse. So, you got to give Datalogic that one. It is a pretty stable and solid unit overall. Going on to the next portion here, which is always super important, is the scanning itself. Because, what good is a barcode scanner if it doesn't scan? So just kind of breaking into some of the nitty-gritty details. This particular unit is going to come equipped with a 1280 by 800 pixel scanner assembly, which is a massive upgrade from the 864 by 544 pixel array that's on the old PM95. So that translates to major upgrades to the decode range when comparing that to its predecessor. Putting them side by side, and I'll pop them on the screen now here, you're going to see that this upgrade almost doubles the decode range on a lot of the mil specs and kind of different code requirements on there. It's pretty staggering, so I have to really give Datalogic kudos for really stepping it up on that one. When compared to some of its competitors, the 9600 does underperform just a little bit on scan range, but not by very much. And it does feature a slightly wider field of view, so it has that going for it. With these particular industrial scanners, there is one test that I like to perform, and that is a shrink wrap test, where I kind of take a couple different barcodes here and throw some shrink wrap on it just to make it a little harder to read. That's going to kind of simulate if you're checking in pallets or something like that. So just trying that here. We have a little code 39, code 128, QR code here, data matrix, and it seems to do pretty well. It does take a little bit for it to think, especially on these QR codes and the smaller codes here. Yeah, it seems to perform pretty well that way. Zooming on over here, we have a bunch of different faded barcodes here. So starting it with the most faded, or sorry, with the least faded. Moving up on the list. And wow, yeah, it's scanning those pretty well. It only gets to about the third one here, but when I was testing its competitor, it couldn't read the third one. It could only read the second one. So it's definitely performing pretty well in that regard. Distance-wise, I was playing around with it earlier, and I was getting about 6 feet on some of these larger codes. And it seems to be performing really well here, getting out of the bounds of the screen even. But yeah, it's performing really well on these tests. Very, very precise, and it seems to be popping them in real good. So yeah, I have no complaints with the scanning performance on this particular unit. So I'd say it passes the test there. Perfect. So with that, I'm going to zoom us in even just a little bit more and start to go over some of the special features that are kind of built in that get made accessible when you have the screen here. So I'll be right back. Let's zoom in. All right, now that we're zoomed in here and I have this pulled up, let's go ahead and take a look and see what this scanner can do. So as I noted before, I have the 4 key button version. So some of the things that you're going to be able to do on the 16 key version are a little different. But taking a look here, you have your 2 up and down arrow keys and then your function keys. Here on top, you're going to see a couple of different options. You're going to be able to see the the connection to the cradle. It's right next to me, so it's really good. You're going to get the timeout, the time readout, and then you're going to get the battery percentage on the device itself. Getting into the up and down keys here, you're going to see that they kind of swap between this menu right here. These are some of the programmable functions that you can do. These are custom, and I'll pop up on the screen now a list of all of the different things that you can do. Some of them you can only do with the 4 buttons. Some you can only do with the 16 button. So, you know, just kind of take a look at that and peruse through. But basically, on the 4 key version, you're gonna have access to 6 different options. With the 16 key model, you're gonna get 2 extras. So, you know, you'll have some extra functionality there if you decide to make the move up. You basically are able to access them by scrolling down here, and you'll have access to the readout here. So let's say right now I have them programmed to do a couple different things. So right now you can see the last thing that I've scanned on here. I've programmed one to clear the screen. So pushing that will clear the screen. I have another one set to turn on the backlight mode for this particular unit. So if we kind of pop it on there, you can kind of see that these keys backlight on and off. And then if we go to the next options here, I have one program to show me the current time and day. And then I have another one set to do a custom string readout. So this one is programmed to say hello. And then that's gonna automatically export on over to the computer here. And if I wanted to clear that, I could just go ahead and then whoop, and it's gone. This particular readout will also read out the codes that you scanned. So if I type out, scan this one that says POS Guys Test, you'll see that POS Guys Test, if it'll focus, my gosh, it's having a hard time today. You'll see that it says POS Guys Test there. So yeah, those are, so you can program up to 4 different programmable strings there. In case you had things that you were entering a whole bunch and you want to have easy access to that. So all of those different functions are kind of just, you know, ways of making the scanner work for you a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more efficient in that regard. I have found that the programming this unit can be a little tricky. I had a little bit of trouble getting it set up at first. You have to use a bunch of barcodes. If you've ever seen the user manual for these things, you know that they could be a little bit tricky. But thankfully, Datalogic support was really on top of helping me get everything sorted out. They have always been pretty good about that. So if you have any questions about getting particular things set up, give us a call and we can get you connected with Datalogic, or reach out to Datalogic directly and they'll be able to get you taken care of. Speaking of programming, If you didn't want to use barcodes, Datalogic does make a program called Aladdin. It's a configuration application which is available for free on Datalogic's website. In my experience, even that program can be a little bit tricky, but you know, it is definitely doable. Also speaking of different ways to program this, it does have compatibility for OPOS and JavaPOS utility support. So if you need some really advanced programming or integration, you should be able to get that set up without, you know, a ton of extra work. A couple other modes, particularly on the 16 key model, it does have a quantity mode that can be programmed, and it can also be programmed to enter in timestamps when something is scanned, as well as define quantities. You can't do it on the 4 button. It's only available on the 16 because those extra keys, you know, make it a lot easier to do that kind of work. But those are super handy features as well and can really speed up your manufacturing or warehouse picking, processing kind of process. So, you know, those are just some of the cool things that this scanner can do. Comparing the feature set with this guy to its closest competition, something probably like the Zebra DS 3600 KD, or sorry, DK rather. I put a video, I'll put a link right here so you can go and take a look at that. That particular model does have some more like built-in programs, which I would have maybe liked to have seen with the power scan here. But you know, it is great that Datalogic does give us the option to do a lot of those things at all. I just kind of wish it would have been a little bit easier to set some of that stuff up without having to go into the back end and, you know, scan a whole bunch of test barcodes and whatnot. So yeah, but other than that, I think that this particular unit is really solid. Definitely durability and scanning wise, it is really snappy. And it's just a really well-functioning unit overall. If you have some patience and some time and capacity, you know, you can definitely trick this thing out to have some of those really extra customizable functions. And it could be a really, really powerful tool if you know what you're doing. But with that, I will let you all go. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or want to make a purchase, definitely feel free to give us a call or an email. Our information is on the screen now. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a great day. Take care.